This is a video I've been wanting to make for a while. I'm sorry if I'm a bit awkward. I'm still very nervous about speaking in voiceovers, but I just really wanted to explore sort of my own concept for an alien build. I kind of imagined something that was sort of built into the terrain, because I'll get more into that earlier. I mean, later, but I'll talk about aliens obviously a lot in this video, but I'm not necessarily referring to exactly the Sims alien so much as my own alien concept that I'm still kind of coming up with and working on. So yeah, on this planet, I kind of imagined it having a dense cloud layer where most of the aliens live up there, up above the clouds, and then instead of having like a prison system, the criminals are exiled to the surface world, which is a lot more hostile and less hospitable. There are a bunch of creatures living down there. There's not as much sunlight, so it's not a very desirable place to be, and I think also some people would probably just choose to live there to make their make a living for their family or whatever, but it's not something that a lot of people want to do. Oh yeah, and they would be mining for resources down there, basically, which I forgot to mention. And I sort of skipped over placing all those rocks in the recording because it would have taken forever. It did take forever, and it would have taken up so much space on my hard drive, and it would have been really boring anyway, so I'm sorry if you really wanted to see that, but there wasn't much to see. I did originally envision it being kind of like a waterfall going down, and I wanted to create that with the fountains, but then when I started placing them, I realized that they only went sort of flat on the horizontal axis, so you couldn't have them spray further down. So I kind of had to work around that, but it's okay. I'm not even sure how much I like it or not. It's one of those things where I just finished it and then went, oh. But I think it turned out alright in the end. I hope so. Oh yeah, I also wanted to say, obviously this house isn't going to be exactly how I envisioned it, because there's limitations to the items and things that you have in The Sims, but it was still really fun to do, and I also want to say that it's sort of in between how I would imagine the houses up in the clouds would be and how the ones on the ground, like that being built into the terrain with all the crystals and whatnot, was really something that I pictured for the houses on the surface, but the overall style and design, like the intricacies, were more of that of one of the cloud houses. So yeah, I guess it kind of represents both. And I really wanted to have fun with colors and things with this, and really ended up sort of combining items and styles that I would not have otherwise done, because they clash in a more typical human sense. But for these aliens, I really pictured mixing sort of geometric shapes with more fluid flowing lines, and having a lot of just really ornate accents and whatnot, a lot of very intricate details. So yeah, I hope it worked out. I also had a lot of fun with the plants and stuff. I actually stopped building this for months because I really wanted some of the things from the luxury... Is it No, it's vintage glamour stuff that I wanted, and I wanted to wait till it went on sale before I got it. So, yeah, this house has been in the works for a long time. Like I mentioned before, there are obviously going to be some differences between how I originally pictured this universe versus how it ends up looking in The Sims. And one of those things was I did not intend to use stairs. Originally, I imagined these aliens having very strong legs, and so they can jump very high, and they just kind of have platforms that they go in between, so they don't really have a need for stairs. Maybe they would have some ramps for disabled people like we do, but in terms of stairs, that was not something that I really would have incorporated if I didn't have to. And also, on the top of on the topic of stairs, it would have really helped to have had spiral staircases in The Sims 4 for this particular build, as you will maybe be able to see now. The stairs take up a lot of space, and it's kind of awkward just to have a straight staircase in the middle of a circular room. But it kind of worked out in the end. It really bothers me that they don't have spiral staircases. We have so many expansion packs, so many stuff packs now, still no spiral staircases, and I think it's partly to do with the fact just how the stairs work in The Sims 4, because you pick a different staircase and you can put whichever kind of railing you want on it. So I think they would really have to like revamp all of the different banisters, all the different railings, to be able to accommodate a spiral staircase, and I'm assuming that's the reason they don't have them. But yeah, it is very bothersome. That's like my number one wish list item for The Sims 4. I don't care about stairs. Wait, no, I do care about stairs. I meant to say I don't care about cars or open world that much. I really just want my spiral staircases. But yeah, this room, oh yeah, the little pod bed thing. That's another thing. I pictured them having like little cushion nests instead of like typical flat beds like we have, and that little Get Famous sleep pod thing was the closest thing they had. But I think it worked out well. For this room, I imagined having a color palette of red, purple, blue, white, and gold, which was kind of crazy. But that little thing, the little pillar with the candles in it, I really liked the design of it for this, but the elephants were kind of like, because I was trying to really only choose items that didn't have like a very like any kind of pattern or image that was very earthly. So like floral prints were okay, but I kind of tried to avoid them if they were a really recognizable type of flower that we had here on Earth, if that makes sense. So yeah, that actually ended up being a lot darker than I thought it would be, which was kind of disappointing because it didn't go with the other red in the room. But other than that, it was okay. And like I say, I really had fun with this because I chose color palettes that I would never have otherwise used. I wanted everything to be very bright and colorful. It actually kind of reminded me of building things in The Sims when I was a kid, because I didn't care how aesthetically perfect, how pleasing it was to look at. I just loved all the different colors and how fun all the items were. Like, I don't know if you remember like that boomerang pattern flooring in The Sims 1. I would use that all the time. There were like these windows that were like kind of like a rainbow of different bubbles that I would use too, if you know what I'm talking about. I don't know if you remember that or if I'm describing it very well. But yeah, it was just a lot of fun to kind of go back to my roots in a way, I guess. And yeah, I don't really know. For the kitchen. This was kind of, I don't know, the kitchen ended up being one of my least favorite rooms, to be honest. I don't imagine these aliens eating very much. They're able to absorb energy from the sun, so they do eat sometimes, but basically the more they're exposed to the sun, the less they require food. They just need water mostly, but the ones that live like below the clouds on the surface of the planet would be required to eat more since they're not getting as much sunlight. I don't know if this makes sense scientifically, but it was just my concept. Oh yeah, and I also remembered them having, or imagined rather, having some sort of cooking apparatus in the middle of the kitchen with like counter space going along the sides rather than the stoves that we have, which are typically designed to be up against a wall or in between counters, which obviously there's not going to be an item exactly like that in The Sims, but I kind of tried to recreate it with the two stoves in the middle. But yeah, and I kind of had to use those counters to get the shape I wanted because they were the only ones that didn't look weird clipping into each other. So yeah, the color palette was very much based on the items I had available. And to be honest, the kitchen wasn't all that important here because they don't need to eat as often. They don't really have the concept of meals or meal times like breakfast, lunch, dinner. So they just kind of eat out of necessity, and it's not really a staple in the home like it would be for us. And I don't really like those curtains I used. They bother me a bit, but they were the only ones I could find that at least fit somewhat with the color scheme and the overall design of the room. If I'm being honest, if I had this to do over again, I probably would change the kitchen. I don't really know if I like how it feels with the rest of the house, but also, like I say, the kitchen was kind of a harder concept to incorporate because it's not really something that I really associate with this world, and it's kind of neither here nor there. And same thing with the bathroom. I wasn't really sure what to do with that, so I just kind of picked items that had fun colors and then try to kind of come up with a color palette around that. So I just went with this kind of pink and purple because I thought those items were really fun. I actually picked out the bathtub first because I wanted something a bit different, and I thought it was kind of cool that it was a round shape, but it was also a corner tub. So everything was kind of based around the bathtub. I didn't really have a plan going in. I just kind of picked out something that I thought would work in the space and went from there. Although it did end up being a bit harder than I'd anticipated to incorporate it because I didn't have any 90-degree angles. Well, I did have a few, but it was not built to have a lot of them, especially in the individual rooms. So, yeah, I think it turned out alright in the end. It was kind of fun just trying to figure everything out. I kind of wondered if it ended up looking too plain, but again, this, along with the kitchen, those weren't really rooms that I had really planned ahead for. Actually, the upstairs bedroom was really the only one that I had a solid idea of what I wanted going in. So I really enjoyed just experimenting with things and finding items that I could use. And, it did give me a lot of ideas just seeing what was available to use in The Sims and what kind of concepts I could incorporate when I do more art and whatnot for this. I did kind of like how that curtain in front of the bathtub worked out. I felt like it sort of brought the room together. But I don't really have much else to say about the washroom. It's just there. It wasn't really a staple for me when I was building this. But I do like that I got to use that bright purple floor. That was another, again, really bright and colorful thing that I got to bring into this build. And I really like how those wall lights work too. I imagined these aliens using a lot of crystals just for decor and having sort of glowing crystals and things for lighting, but I did have a particular sim or character that I'd made in mind when I was building this. I just kind of had him living in a really basic house in Brindleton Bay, but I wanted to build an actual house that I had specifically designed for him, and I imagined him sort of being interested in the natural world, in collecting different crystals, rocks, minerals, and plants and studying them. So I really wanted to sort of bring that into the home here. And I hope that came across. And I also wanted to mention that the dining area wasn't very big because, again, it's not the type of society where they're going to be having a family dinner or hosting dinner parties, because food just isn't as something that really brings them together like it does for humans. It's not a big part of their physiology. So I just, they do have some tables and things, but they're not all gonna sit down and have a meal together. Oh, and of course, like I mentioned with the crystals and the plants, I wanted to have a nice garden on top of, I guess you would say, the rooftop. I had a lot of fun with the alien plants from the Get to Work pack, and I thought that the Strangerville plants actually worked really well here as well. So that was kind of fortuitous that I waited so long to finish this build, because I think I started it before Strangerville even came out, and the items from that pack really helped me with this and added a lot to just the overall environment and gave me a lot more to work with, which was really fun. And I did incorporate some just regular plants, but I tried to pick ones that weren't instantly recognizable as, some type of flower that we could have on Earth. I used those sort of branches with the blue leaves on them. I thought those were a bit alien looking, and I just, trying to pick things that were different. And honestly, I had no idea what to do with this room here, so I just kind of tried to make it into a front hall area where you can put your clothes when you come in. The colors were really wacky. This one, I was really conflicted about the color scheme. I wasn't really sure how it looked, but in the end, I think I liked how it came together. I found enough items in the blue to kind of balance it out, because I thought it looked just too much at first. It was very contrasting, complementary colors with the blue and the orange, but I think it turned out all right in the end. I hope so. Oh yeah, and the only custom content I used in this pack was that cushion from the Stellar Stuff pack, and I also used some prints later on. And I was kind of disappointed because I really wanted to give him a bookshelf in his bedroom, but nothing really fit. It was really hard because having like a little library area was something that I really wanted, but I did not like how any of the bookshelves looked for this environment. But I ended up making this room based around those yellow and pink ones, which I think turned out cute, and I ended up adding some green as well, which was really fun. This room turned out a lot more pastel than the other ones. I wasn't really sure how I felt about that, but I did think it was good for like a nice, calm, relaxing area just to sit and read a book. Oh, and I'm sorry that menu keeps popping up on the side. That's from my tablet. Every time I accidentally bump one of the buttons with my arm, that comes up. So I'm sorry if it's distracting. I hope it's not too bad. Another weird thing, I don't know if this is weird, but a challenge I had for this was I didn't really want to use chairs with arms that had a very typical, recognizable chair shape. I wanted their sitting arrangements to be a bit different. So I really liked those chairs. Even though I had originally envisioned something more rounded, I thought those looked really cool and they really fit with the aesthetic I was going for, but I ended up picking a different chair for this room. But this was one of my favorite rooms to decorate, I think, just because I really like the color combination. I wanted it to be very cozy, but still sort of have that vibrancy that you see throughout the rest of the house, and I hope I accomplished that. And again, I added a lot of crystals and things because that was a big thing for me with how I pictured this character who would be living here. And this room was very much based on the colors available for the different electronic devices, the analyzer. I also gave him a little vet table, the medicine creation station. I forget exactly what it's called in the game, but I had given him that when I put him in Brindleton Bay because there were so many sick strays around that I wanted him to be able to make wellness treats and heal them. So yeah, I imagine him being very compassionate. And I did lose some of this footage for this room because I forgot to record, but you didn't really miss much, to be honest. Yeah, and I actually ended up going back and putting more pet stuff in this room because I did give him like a cat and a dog type of creature. So I just wanted to have more stuff for them because pet stuff is very important to me in any build. I love having stuff for animals there. So yeah, this room, I wasn't really sure how it worked out. I had a lot of trouble with the color scheme because the machines and things were a lot more dull in tone than I would have liked and very industrial looking. And I wasn't really sure how I felt about that, but I just wanted him to have a place to like study different plants and geodes. So yeah, I think it came out all right. I wasn't super happy with the color palette, but again, it was very much based on what I had available. So it is what it is. I'm basically done at this point of the build with the interior. I think the bedroom, the library kind of room, and the dining area were my three favorite parts, aside from the outside of the house. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this. If you did watch, I hope I can make more videos. I really appreciate it if you actually listen to me ramble. and made it to the end. Thank you so much again, and I'll see you later. Bye.